Today I'm going to be showing you how I made these Shark Ocean coasters from start to finish. So that means prepping the base, applying the resin, and finishing the backs. Let's go. I started with wood coasters I purchased from Sparkle and Ice LLC on Etsy. I painted them with Mermaid Trash pigment drops in turquoise. I used my fingers, but a paintbrush probably would have been more precise than I was here. I then used a watered down black acrylic paint in a precision tip bottle and a needle-like tool to push the paint around to cover the shark. A big part about finishing the backs is to prep them from the beginning. I coat the whole bottom with paste wax. This creates a barrier between the wood and the resin and makes it so much easier to remove the resin drips once the coaster is finished. This is where people will use painter's tape, but I find the wax to be much easier for me. But remember, you only want the wax where you don't want your resin. Using Moss Epoxy's Tabletop Pro to create an ocean effect and to cover the wood. The tabletop resin has a heat rating of 124 degrees, which makes it great for use on coasters. I tinted the resin with a drop of the Mermaid Trash pigment. One drop was enough to tint the resin and keep it clear enough to see through to the sharks. I apply a decent amount of resin here to fully coat the coaster and to have it run evenly over the sides. Applying heat from my Wagner heat gun thins out the resin a bit and helps pop any bubbles. Next, I add some of that same tabletop resin, but this time it's colored with Moss Epoxy's Resin Ocean White pigment. I add a good squeeze of the pigment to my resin for a thick, opaque white. There are many ways to create an ocean look, but this time I went with a more sporadic placement of the white. I used my heat gun from different angles to blow out the white and create cells. Now this happens to every resin artist at one time or another. There is a hair in my resin and a few specks of dust. I did cover the resin after pouring, but I missed it. I fixed this by giving the coasters a light sanding and making sure to get that dust and hair. This will remove the imperfections and rough up the resin, helping the next layer adhere. I made sure to clean off any dust with a little alcohol and a paper towel. Once my coasters were all clean, I placed them back on their leveled surface for a top coat. I'm using another layer of Moss Epoxy's Tabletop for its higher heat resistance and that glossy finish. I make sure to add enough resin so that it will flow over the sides for an even coating. Any drips that land on my mat and cure, I save for future projects. A touch of heat from the heat gun and a torch will pop any bubbles. Letting the resin sit for a minute before you add that heat lets the bubbles rise closer to the top, so when you do add the heat, you pop them. Now onto the bottoms. Once the coasters are cured, you can start working on cleaning up the bottoms. I do this a day or two after the top coat, but a full cure can take up to 7 days, and you will still be able to clean the bottoms this way if you are more comfortable waiting for the full cure. You see here why I chose to coat the whole bottom of the coasters in wax. The resin got in between my cups and the coaster, but it's no problem because with a little bit of heat and my scraper, it pops right off. For the best results, I like to heat the resin a little with my heat gun before running my scraper under the drips. You want to be cutting through the resin, not pulling it off. By pulling, you could pull too much and the resin will come right off the sides of your coaster. With all the drips removed, I use a sanding block to remove any leftover resin that may be on the bottom and to smooth out any sharp edges. I clean off any dust with some water and a paper towel. You do not want to use alcohol at this stage because it can wear away at the resin and it could leave it feeling tacky or not as shiny. Onto the cork backing. I use a little bit of Starbond adhesive glue on the bottom for a little extra security even though the cork has an adhesive. Then it's a matter of peeling and sticking. Or so I thought. I didn't realize that these coasters were a little bit smaller than 4 inches, making my cork too big. I will show you how I fixed this first one in a minute, but for the second two I went ahead and traced the coaster and cut it to size for a perfect fit. To fix that first cork backing, I carefully ran an Exacto knife along the edge of the coaster, making sure only to cut the cork and not the resin on the side. It helps to hold the knife at a bit of an angle to avoid touching the edges. That's it! We have completed a set of resin coasters. There are so many ways to make coasters, and I hope this tutorial helps you make an awesome set of your own. If you enjoyed this and would like to see more, please subscribe and like this video. Thanks for watching!